All right, so let's dive into something that you might not expect.
Okay.
Code reviews for automation scripts.
It's not just for the hardcore developers anymore.
I've always thought of code reviews as something that, developers do,
Right.
but it never really occurred to me that it could apply to the world of automation testing too.
Yeah.
So I'm super curious to dive into this.
Right.
Why don't you break it down for me and for our listener, of course?
Yeah.
What exactly a code review in this context?
Think of it as a quality control check for your automated tests.
Okay.
Just like you wouldn't want to ship software without testing it.
Right.
You shouldn't run automation scripts without having another set of eyes review them first.
Okay, so it's like having a buddy system for your code.
Yeah.
But I have to admit,
Sure.
I'm still wrapping my head around why this matters so much. I mean, I'm on the receiving end of these test results, not the one actually writing the scripts.
Right.
So why should I, as someone who relies on these tests, really care about code reviews?
Remember that time a critical bug slipped through testing?
Oh, yeah.
And caused a major headache right before release?
Uh-huh.
Or when a flaky test kept failing randomly, holding up the entire pipeline?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the kinds of nightmares that code reviews can help prevent.
Hey, now you're talking my language. Avoiding those last-minute fire drills sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
But let's get specific here.
Okay.
What kinds of problems are we actually talking about catching with these reviews?
All right.
Give me the juicy details.
Okay.
What's the worst that can happen if we skip this step?
Imagine tests that pass when they shouldn't,
Oh, no.
because the script isn't actually verifying the right things.
It's...
Or tests that are so slow and inefficient, they end up bottlenecking your entire testing process.
Yeah.
And then there are the scripts that are so convoluted and poorly written that no one else on the team can understand them,
Right.
let alone update them.
Ouch. Those are some scary scenarios.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the light here. So how do these code reviews actually work?
Well,
Are we talking about gathering everyone around a whiteboard and dissecting lines of code?
not quite.
Okay.
While in-person discussions can be helpful,
Right.
a lot of code review happens through tools like GitHub or GitLab.
Okay.
Basically, you submit your script for review,
Mhm.
and other team members can comment on specific lines,
Yeah.
suggest improvements,
Okay.
or even propose alternative solutions.
So it's like having a virtual team of experts looking over your shoulder,
Exactly.
guiding you towards better code.
That's the idea.
And the beauty of it is that this feedback is documented and trackable.
Right.
It's not just a fleeting conversation.
Yeah.
It becomes part of the code's history,
Exactly.
which is super helpful for knowledge sharing and future reference.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Good.
But I have to ask the question that's probably on everyone's mind right now.
Okay.
Doesn't this add a ton of time to an already busy process?
It's definitely an investment,
Right.
but it's one that pays off big time in the long run.
Yep.
Think of it like this.
Right.
Would you rather spend a little extra time up front catching those pesky bugs during a review,
Yeah.
or scrambling to fix them later when they're causing major disruptions?
Good point. A little bit of prevention goes a long way, right?
Exactly. And remember, those efficient locators and reusable code we talked about earlier,
Uh-huh.
those are the kinds of things that emerge from a good code review process.
Right.
And they can actually save you tons of time in the long run.
Okay.
Because your tests will be more stable,
Yeah.
reliable,
Uh-huh.
and easier to maintain.
All right. You've officially convinced me that this is worth exploring further.
Great.
So beyond avoiding those disastrous scenarios,
Right.
what are some of the other long-term benefits of making code reviews a regular habit?
Well, think about it. When your code is consistently reviewed,
Yeah.
it naturally becomes cleaner, more readable,
All right.
and more maintainable.
Okay.
That means fewer bugs, faster debugging,
Okay.
and smoother collaboration among team members.
Right.
Plus, it fosters this amazing culture of shared knowledge
Uh-huh.
and continuous improvement, which is priceless.
It sounds almost utopian.
It can be pretty great.
Everyone learning from each other,
Yeah.
constantly improving the code base, and working together in perfect harmony.
It's not always sunshine and rainbows, of course.
Right.
There are definitely some real-world challenges that teams face when trying to implement code reviews.
Okay. Let's get real.
All right.
What are those roadblocks that tend to trip people up?
Okay,
So I'm guessing it's not always easy to convince everyone to jump on board with this.
you're absolutely right.
Okay.
One of the biggest hurdles is simply time constraints.
Right.
Teams are always feeling the pressure to deliver quickly,
Yeah.
and code reviews can feel like an extra burden.
I can definitely see how that could be a challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing there's also the whole human factor. to consider. People aren't always comfortable receiving feedback.
Right.
Especially on their code.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
We all have our egos.
Right.
And it can be tough to hear that our code isn't perfect.
Uh-huh.
So finding ways to give and receive feedback constructively is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
But trust me, it's a skill that can be learned and mastered.
All right. I'm ready to dive into those solutions.
Okay, great.
How do we navigate this code review minefield and actually make it work for our teams?
Right.
Give us the step-by-step guide.
First and foremost, you need to define a clear process.
Okay.
Who submits the code?
Ah.
Who reviews it?
Okay.
What tools are you using?
Right.
What are the specific criteria for approval?
Yeah.
The more structure you have, the smoother the process will be.
Love a good system.
Me too.
Well.
Next, make checklists your new best friends.
Checklists.
Yeah, remember those common issues we talked about earlier?
Okay.
Like inefficient locators
Uh-huh.
and hard-coded data.
Right.
Create a checklist that specifically addresses those points.
Okay.
That way, everyone is looking for the same things,
Uh-huh.
and you'll ensure consistency across all your reviews.
That's a brilliant idea.
Thanks.
Consistency is key,
For sure.
especially when you have multiple reviewers involved.
Absolutely. And to make things even more efficient,
Okay.
automate what you can.
Automate?
Yes, tools like SonarQube and ESLint can automatically flag basic code quality issues, saving everyone a ton of time and headaches.
So we've got a clear process,
Yes.
comprehensive checklists, and helpful automation tools.
Right.
What about the human element?
That's a great point.
How do we make sure the feedback itself is actually helpful
Yeah.
and not just demoralizing?
The art of constructive feedback.
Okay.
It's all about focusing on the code, not the person.
Right.
Instead of saying, this code is messy,
Yeah.
I'm having trouble following the logic here.
Okay.
Could we consider using a helper function to make it clear? Right.
Offer specific examples.
Mm-hmm.
Suggest concrete solutions.
Okay.
And always frame your feedback in a positive and collaborative way.
That's such a great point.
Thanks.
It's about working together to make the code better.
Right.
Not tearing each other down.
Exactly.
Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
Remember, good code reviews are about building a culture of quality.
Okay.
Start small,
Uh-huh.
focus on the high-impact areas,
Right.
and celebrate the improvements you see along the way.
Okay.
And above all, remember that it's a journey,
Yeah.
not a destination.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but I'm already feeling more confident and excited about the possibilities of code reviews.
Me too.
And I have a feeling our listener is too.
I hope so.
It's an incredibly valuable practice that can truly transform your automation testing efforts.
I think so too.
All right, we're going to take a quick pause here,
Okay.
but stay tuned.
All right.
In the next part of our deep dive. Okay.
We're going to explore some real-world examples where code reviews made a significant impact.
Great.
And we'll share some practical tips for implementing these practices in your own workflow.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm still buzzing from our last conversation about the power of code reviews for automation scripts. We talked about the why, the what, and even touched on some of the potential hurdles.
We did.
But now I'm itching to hear about some real-world success stories.
Right.
Can you share some examples where code reviews really made a difference?
Absolutely. One scenario that comes to mind is a team that was struggling with incredibly flaky tests.
Okay.
It seemed like their tests were failing randomly all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And they couldn't figure out why. It was driving them crazy.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
It's like chasing a phantom bug.
Yeah.
You can never quite pin it down.
Exactly. So they decided to implement code reviews as part of their workflow.
Okay.
And guess what? During one of the reviews, a team member noticed that the scripts were using inefficient locators.
That relied on elements that were constantly changing in the UI.
So the locators were breaking every time the UI updated,
Yeah.
causing those random test failures. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. By simply refactoring those locators to be more robust
Okay.
and less dependent on volatile UI elements,
Right.
they were able to significantly reduce the flakiness of their tests. It was a huge win for the team.
That's a fantastic example. It really highlights how a fresh perspective can catch those subtle issues that might otherwise slip through the cracks.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other stories that come to mind?
I've also seen cases where code reviews helped teams uncover potential performance bottlenecks in their automation scripts.
Okay.
For example, one team was using hard-coded data in their tests, which made them slow and inefficient.
Right.
During a code review, someone suggested externalizing the data into a configuration file,
Okay.
which not only sped up the tests,
Right.
but also made them much more flexible and maintainable.
So it's not just about finding bugs.
It's about optimizing the code for efficiency and scalability, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm starting to see how code reviews can be a catalyst for all sorts of improvements.
It's true. And sometimes the benefits go beyond the code itself.
Hmm.
I've witnessed teams where code reviews actually sparked a renewed sense of collaboration and knowledge sharing.
Oh, tell me more about that. How did code reviews impact the team dynamics?
Well, in one particular case, a team was made up of a mix of experienced automation engineers
Okay.
and some newer folks who are still learning the ropes.
Right.
They started doing regular code reviews,
Uh-huh.
and it became this amazing learning opportunity for everyone involved.
I bet. It's like having built-in mentorship right there in the code review process.
Exactly. The senior engineers were able to share their expertise and best practices.
Yeah.
While the junior folks got valuable feedback on their code and learned new techniques, it really helped bridge the knowledge gap and create a more cohesive team.
That's inspiring. It's amazing how something as seemingly technical as code review can have such a ripple effect on team culture and dynamics.
It's all about creating that environment of continuous learning and improvement. And the best part is it's not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
The benefits of code reviews compound over time.
Okay.
The more you do them, the better your code base becomes, the stronger your team gets, and the smoother your entire automation process runs.
You've painted quite the picture. I'm feeling even more motivated to make this a reality in my own work. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the practicalities. Yeah. We've covered the benefits, the challenges, and even some inspiring examples. But how do we actually implement effective code reviews in our day-to-day workflow? Where do we even begin?
That's a great question. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. One of the best pieces of advice I can give is to start small. Don't try to tackle everything at once.
Right.
Pick one specific area of your code base or one type of automation script to focus on first.
So maybe start with the most critical scripts.
Yeah.
The ones that are causing the most headaches.
Exactly.
Or the ones that are most prone to errors.
Or you could even focus on a particular aspect of the code.
Okay.
Like locators or weights, as we discussed earlier.
Right.
The key is to break it down into manageable chunks so it doesn't feel like you're trying to climb Mount Everest.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Focus on one step at a time.
Yep.
Build momentum.
And
then gradually expand your scope as you go.
Precisely. And remember those checklists we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
They're a fantastic way to ensure consistency and thoroughness.
Yeah.
Especially when you're just starting out.
Right. Having a clear set of criteria to guide the reviews can really help streamline the process.
Yeah.
And ensure everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely. You can even create different checklists for different types of scripts.
Okay.
Or different areas of your code base. For example, you might have a checklist specifically for reviewing UI tests.
Right.
Another one for API tests, and so on.
Okay. I'm loving these practical tips.
Yeah.
It's all starting to feel much more doable now.
Good.
Any other golden nuggets of advice you'd like to share?
Well, remember that time boxing technique we touched upon earlier?
Yes.
That's another crucial element of making code reviews work in a busy environment.
Right. Setting those clear time limits to keep the reviews focused and efficient. It's so easy to get bogged down in endless discussions if you don't have those boundaries in place.
Exactly. Decide up front how much time you're going to dedicate to each review and stick to it.
Right.
If you run out of time, you can always schedule a follow-up session.
Yeah.
But having that time constraint helps prevent those reviews from dragging on and on.
Brilliant time boxing checklists, starting small. These are all fantastic tips for making code reviews a regular part of our workflow.
And don't forget the human element.
Right.
Fostering a culture of constructive feedback is paramount.
Yeah.
Encourage open communication, active listening, and respectful dialogue during the reviews. Remember, it's all about collaboration and continuous improvement.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We've explored real-world success stories, practical implementation tips, and even touched on the importance of fostering a positive and collaborative review culture.
We have.
We're going to take another quick pause here, but when we come back, we'll delve into the tools and technologies that can help streamline your code review process and make it even more efficient and effective. Stay with us. Welcome back to our deep dive into code reviews for automation scripts.
It's been a great deep dive so far.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the nitty-gritty details of what to look for
Yeah.
to real-world examples of how code reviews can make a real difference.
Absolutely.
We've even shared some practical tips for actually implementing those reviews into your workflow.
We have.
But before we wrap up entirely,
Okay.
there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to explore.
All right. What's that?
The tools and technologies that can help streamline this whole process.
Yes. The right tools can make a world of difference when it comes to efficient and effective code reviews. They can help us manage the flow of reviews, automate certain checks,
Okay.
and even facilitate better communication among team members.
So where do we even begin?
Well,
What are some of the must-have tools for anyone looking to level up their code review game?
I'd say the foundation of any good code review process
Right.
is a solid version control system.
Okay.
Platforms like GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket are essential for managing your code base, tracking changes,
Right.
and providing a central hub for your review activities.
Okay, so version control is like the home base for our code reviews.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
It's where we store the code, track the changes,
Right.
and manage the entire process.
Exactly.
But what about tools that specifically help with the actual review itself?
Okay.
How do we make sure those reviews are thorough,
Right.
consistent, and efficient?
That's where tools like SonarQuad and ESLint come into play.
Okay.
Remember those common issues we talked about earlier?
Yep.
Like inefficient locators,
Uh-huh.
hard-coded data,
Right.
or inconsistent coding styles.
Right.
These tools can automatically scan your code
Right.
and flag potential problems,
Uh-huh.
saving you a ton of time and effort.
So they're like our automated code quality assistant,
Oh, I like that.
helping us catch those low-hanging fruit before they even reach the human reviewers.
Exactly. And the beauty of these tools is that they can be integrated directly into your version control system.
Oh, wow.
So those checks happen automatically
Okay.
whenever someone submits code for review.
That's fantastic.
It is.
It takes some of the burden off the human reviewers
Right.
and allows them to focus on the more nuanced aspects of the code.
Precisely. And to complement those automated checks,
Okay.
you can also leverage linting tools,
Uh-huh.
which help enforce coding standards
Right.
and ensure consistency across your code base.
Yes. Linting tools are like those grammar
Exactly.
and spell checkers for your code.
That's a good way to think about it.
Right. They make sure everything is written neatly
Yeah,
and according to the established style guidelines.
exactly. And having that consistency makes the code much easier to read,
Right.
understand, and maintain in the long run. It's a win-win for everyone involved.
So we've got our version control system as our home base.
Yep.
Then we've got our automated quality assistants in the form of SonarQube and ESLint.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got our grammar and spell checkers, aka the linting tools.
Right.
Anything else we should add to our code review toolkit?
Don't forget about communication and collaboration tools.
Oh, right.
Platforms like Slack or Microsoft Teams can be incredibly helpful for real-time discussions during code reviews.
Yeah.
Sometimes a quick chat can clarify a question
Right.
or resolve an issue much faster than going back and forth with comments in the code.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having that virtual water cooler conversation
Yeah.
where you can bounce ideas off each other
Right.
and get instant feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by integrating all these tools into your workflow,
You can create a seamless and efficient code review process that benefits everyone on the team.
wow. We've really covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We've explored the why, the what, the how, and even the tools that can help us make code reviews a reality.
It's been a really comprehensive deep dive.
It's been an incredible journey.
It has.
But before we officially wrap up,
Okay.
I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Ooh. I always love a good final thought.
Remember, this is a journey,
Yes.
not a destination.
So true.
The world of software development is constantly evolving.
It is.
And so, too, should our approaches to testing and code quality.
That's so true. Embrace the spirit of continuous learning.
Yes.
Stay curious and never stop experimenting with new tools, techniques, and best practices.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about delivering the best possible software we can.
Absolutely.
And code reviews, when done well,
Yeah.
can be a powerful catalyst for achieving that goal.
Well said. To our listener,
Keep learning, keep collaborating,
keep testing.
and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the world of automation testing.
Absolutely. Until next time,
Yeah.
happy testing.